He was one of the three major actors to make it big in Hollywood in the genre of method acting, as well as being a young lead on the silver screen, up against other actors at the time, such as James Dean and even Marlon Brando, one of the original method actors that only had a short lived career. From being a rebel on the big screen to another hero of the silver screen, spending at least over 30 years on stage to film and becoming an icon that would be talked about after his death. Even having modern actors wanting to play him in films and even being inspired by him and his acting style. This is the great Montgomery Clift, and this is his basic biography. Early life. Montgomery Clift was born on the 17th of October 1920 in Omaha, Nebraska, USA. His father was a vice president of a trust in Omaha, Nebraska, and his mother was a homemaker. He would spend some time in Omaha, part of a rich family in the same town, with his siblings as well, attending schools and even learning new and even different languages sometimes. Sometimes going around the world for their education, with their parents investing in their future and even their wealth. However, this would have a dark turn for the family, as they would struggle financially in the 1930s, after the Wall Street crash of 1929, then the Great Depression in the 1930s. The Great Depression had made a rich family poor, and now moving from Omaha to New York for a better life. His mother was able to help out his father and even help everyone, such as their kids, to further their education and have degrees sorted for them, or just trying to get their future sorted for them. However, Montgomery Clift was not able to attend any university or continue his education, but was able to work odd jobs just to support the family. Whilst working, he managed to take up acting in the mid 1930s and have a passion for this to be and even become an actor at the end. That would lead him to working on Broadway, plus working in various plays and productions in the future. This would help, as would make more money from acting rather than his odd jobs, which were only paying him less money and only providing smaller income compared to his siblings, where they were only spending money on education. Acting career. He was in his teens and actually working on behind the stage and even becoming a stage actor. Sometimes he would star as a young lead in many roles and have time to promote his performances on radio, with people tuning in to see what the performance would be for this next would-be star or next major star on Broadway. This was the late 1930s, whilst World War II was starting and at the same time, in which Montgomery Clift tried to enlist in the United States Army, but was not able to due to contracting an illness before signing up, and this would prevent him from joining the United States Army. He would still carry on acting and winning some awards due to his performances on stage. His first stage performance was in 1933, and then he would be able to play in other plays, such um, as Husbands Go. He would still continue acting on Broadway sometimes, contributing, and sometimes himself contributing to most of his stage companies that would help him with finding success. He would star and even get another award for this award-winning play called "There Shall Be No Night" in 1940, and later would get a chance to be recognized in Hollywood based on his outstanding performance on stage in the 1940s. But the 1940s would not be his breakout decade in Hollywood, but he would be having to juggle with his stage performances and even being an extra on the silver screen. Whilst working in Hollywood, he was able to work with various heavyweight actors within the time and even have a chance to learn from their acting skills. He officially moved to Hollywood in the late 1940s, straight after the war, and even had to adapt to the changing landscape of the movies. He was even influenced by real life, which is now being portrayed on the big screen for all audiences. The first film he would star in, our first major film, was called Red River in 1948, co-starring with legendary John Wayne, where he and John Wayne will both share screen time with each other. Just before he worked on that particular film, he was able to star in The Search and would be nominated for his first Academy Award. Even working with Olivia de la Havilland in 1949 within the film The Heiress, making them one of the best couples on the silver screen at the time. Another Hollywood rebel, Montgomery Clift would become one of the youngest stars to be recognized around the world for his performances and being a rebel on the big screen, in which the 1950s had implemented this type of character in many movies. In various forms of actors such as James Dean and Marlon Brando made them the successful character that all movies were able to aspire from if you were a young actor. He became a method actor that would be recognized in more movies and even being used when traveling around the world to be an iconic star that was destined to be one of the best there ever was. One of the best films he was able to make or able to attend was in the 1950s film called Place in the Sun, which was actually released in 1951, where he was able to show more emotion and his rebellious side of different character of his character. He even starring with the legendary Liz Taylor, as he would be the love interest of that great actress. After his iconic roles, by playing the main character in the movie A Place in the Sun, Montgomery Clift was able to get more leading roles as a young actor. He contended with many with many movies and his rivals, yet still carrying on acting throughout this decade of the 1950s, becoming one of the best, even an icon even becoming an icon that most people would love to see on the big screen and love to see him in person. More movies were made with Montgomery Clift as lead, and would have him changing from a rebel to a war hero or even a cowboy, depending on the production studios that wanted him to be an acting lead. Another great movie he would star in was called From Here to Eternity in 1953, based on a romance and even war, co-starring with other legendary actors such as Burt Lancaster, Deborah Kerr, and even future Superman star George Reeves. He even ended the 1950s on a high, with his last role of that decade being called The Young Lions in 1958, with rival actor Marlon Brando and legendary singer Dean Martin. Personal life and final years. Montgomery Clift was never married in his life, but having relationships with other actresses and sometimes being an activist for LGBT community when he came out as a bisexual in the height of his career, which did not affect his acting career or personal life. However, he would be in a car accident or involved in an accident that would affect him mentally and even physically. This would make him have many facial reconstructions or any other reconstruction that was needed, and sometimes had trouble with alcohol when he was an iconic actor, with some of his issues being affecting his health and even his personal life. The 1960s would be the final decade where he would continue his success whilst being an Hollywood actor. He would star in movies that had Hollywood heavyweights come and go, even himself having mental effects with stress, and even based on being an award-winning actor. The movie Misfits in 1961 would be the film he would star with the beautiful Marilyn Monroe and even the charismatic Clark Gable, where Montgomery Clift played the love interest of the beautiful Marilyn Monroe, and sadly, she would pass away after the film production. He would still continue to act until the mid 1960s, where he was able to star in his last film, The Defector, in the mid 1960s, and would pass away during one of his film productions straight after. Legacy and death. Sadly, Montgomery Clift passed away from a heart attack on the 23rd of July 1966. He was 45 years old at the time of his death, and would have more movies under his name that was still had him in the top billing, but was cut short with other actors taking over the roles. His life was cut short as well, and would have various health problems contributing to his alcoholism, and even his stress to his death, and even impacts from the car accident, which would change his life and have different consequences based on his career and even personality. His power in Hollywood would last over 30 years, but it would still benefit Hollywood by accepting him as a young star, or part of the three young stars that were the greats, which were James Dean and even Marlon Brando. Which they would still outlive him, but yet James Dean will pass away before he would. Actors and actresses in the modern day would have some resemblance to this once great actor, as Tom Cruise is another great actor that has his looks and even style of acting that would be used in movies today. He, Montgomery Clift, is still talked about in movies, songs, and even Hollywood in general, having the brother of James Franco, David Franco, playing him in a biopic film, which would happen 50 something years to 60 something years after his death. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't done so. My name is Suki Cookie, and thank you for watching.